Today's session is, giving me an immense pleasure to see you and to witness the, first few graduates successfully working in the industries. In this morning's sessions, I'm sure you have heard about a lot of expectations from the MOE Ministry of Education secretaries, University Grants Commission chairmen. I think you may be a little bit overwhelmed, but at the same time, we also wanted to hear from the industries and university administrations about their expectation from the different perspective. And I'm sure you don't have to feel overburdened about those expectations. But I think it's really important to understand what kind of different expectations the government and industries and university administration could have. And I hope some of those advice, expectation will be helpful for making your future decisions. So we have 4 distinguished panelists today. I wanted to invite each 4 of the panelists here to come to the stage. And first and foremost, I don't have to introduce, but we wanted to ask, Senior Professor, Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Nilanthi Silva to come to the stage. She has been one of the most active Vice-Chancellors under this project, and she's always trying to, sometimes protest to the Secretary of the Ministry of Education and UGC Chairman for the benefit for the students. So I really appreciate Vice Chancellors to be one of the panelists. Okay, and the second panelist is Mr. Jehan Perinpanayagam. I hope I pronounce his name correctly. He is the chairperson of the SLAASCOM. I'm sure one of the focus of this computing and technology faculty at University of Kelaniya, I think degree program is geared towards computing technologies, and many of your students are probably looking for the computer science, computer industries. So I wanted to warmly welcome Mr. Jehan to come to the stage. And he has been very unique industry experiences spanning 26 years. And he has done many first things in Sri Lankan industries. And he's also currently working as a CEO of Informate Private Limited. And he also holds the position as a Senior Vice President of John Keells Holding, one of the most prestigious companies in Sri Lanka. And he also has several leadership roles as chairman of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, Sri Lanka Nordic Business Councils, and many others. So I really warmly welcome. And the next panelist is Mr. Heminda Jayaweera. He's the executive director of Trace Sri Lanka, and he's at the same time the former COO of the SLINTEC. And Mr. Heminda is a recipient of the prestigious Eisenhower Fellowship in the year 2021. And he has, actually the kind of exemplary case of the technology startup in Sri Lanka. And I hope some of the Kelaniya University FC students can follow suit. He's wonderful career pathways. And last but not least, I wanted to welcome Mr. Pramoad Perera. He's the Asia Pacific People and Talent Leader H2O.ai Private Limited. And he's also at the same time the board director of the Diversity Collective Lanka. And he's a commercially focused and result-driven HR leader with hands-on experience in large-scale people initiative, predominantly business transformations, offshore startups, and strategic HR projects in regional blue chips conglomerate, as well as global organization. So we are very fortunate to have this wonderful industry leaders and university administration to have this session today. So first, I wanted to ask the same questions to all 4 panelists. And first question is, as I mentioned, you have already had a lot of expectation from the government in the morning, but I wanted to ask, what are your expectations for technology faculty students and graduates from different industry perspective? And what would be your advice for seizing the opportunities in technology startup, job and career progressions? I'm hiding the microphone for the panelists. So let me start from the chairman of the SLAASCOM. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all at University of Kelaniya for this magnificent opening. I mean, it's really a testament to the hard work and with the support of ADB. I think all of us as Sri Lankans and part of the Sri Lankan IT BPM industry can be proud of this world-class facility. The industry has continued to be very resilient. We are one of the few industries that has continued to grow throughout COVID. Add jobs, now it's at about $1.7 billion in export revenue earnings, employing about 144,000 people, and I must mention 35% of them are women. And in the BPO segment, it's almost 50-50. We had our first female chair, Sandra De Souza, 2 years ago. We'll have our second female chair in 2025. So we are very keen that this should be an inclusive and an equal opportunity employer. In the SLAASCOM board, if you look at it, we have nearly 50% female representation, so that's something we are very keen on. Now, I must mention that the industry things are looking up. Yesterday, I was at a session with Cisco Labs where they celebrated their 10th anniversary. Some of their US senior executives flew down, and they are saying that the talent that is here in Sri Lanka is some of the best they've seen in the world. And they are looking to add securities-related services and also AI-related work. They have already 1,000 people here looking to grow. IFS is looking to add another almost 1,000 people in Sri Lanka. Virtusa is looking to grow. So these are all strong endorsements and speaks very well. HCL is also looking to grow. As an industry, we are working very closely with several bodies. We've signed several MOUs with different parts of the world. And recently we had a high-level delegation from NESCOM coming down and from Startup India, and we want to encourage other companies like HCL to come and set up their second centers in Sri Lanka. So all of this is going to need talent, it's going to create employment. Having said that, this is a little bit of a unique time because of the war in Ukraine, because of some of the challenges in the West. We have seen some of the tech companies slow down their hiring and some slight reductions. So for the first time, actually, we are seeing especially at the junior levels, some of the hiring into the companies starting to slow down. I think it's a very short-term situation which is unique, which should reverse. So on one side, there is a gap in middle management, and a lot of our companies are looking for more experienced professionals where they have lost to migration. On the other side, there's a little bit of a more people looking for internships and job opportunities at the more junior level. It can very quickly reverse, but we need to be aware of this. So my advice to the young people here is to be open, not to follow just the traditional routes. There are many different, your skills are in demand all across the country, and in fact you have a global demand, right? So there are lots of opportunities to work for global companies whilst working in Sri Lanka, to start your own company, to look at entrepreneurship, to work for banks and for multiple sectors, not just in the IT BPM industry. So that's something we need to be mindful of. The other thing is in terms of mindset, right? I think if you look at 2022, 2023, some of the pay and all of this went quite crazy. You had sort of exorbitant sums being paid, dollar pegging, and there were a lot of demands from the workforce. Now, it's starting to stabilize as the economy stabilizes, so just it's important to be realistic in expectations and not to have unrealistic expectations, also to be flexible, and you need to work hard on certain things. So be active on your social media, LinkedIn, do white papers, start connecting with people, showcase sort of creative skills. Don't expect things to fall on your lap. I think that's a mindset that we must adopt. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for those valuable advice. And then I think he touched upon the importance of startups, and I think Mr. Heminda is the kind of exemplary icon to speak about this topic. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. As Jehan mentioned, congratulations, University of Kelaniya, for this momentous occasion. I think when I entered this premises, I haven't seen this before, so I was quite surprised to see this kind of facility in a Sri Lankan university, so great. So, but having said that, right, so I think with that comes a huge responsibility for a university, not only university, but I think for students, the staff, because this is almost the finest facility that you can ever expect, right? Then the product has to be as fine as you can imagine. It has to be world class. I'll give you one example because the guest from the ADB said that, to link it up with the startup side. There's this startup that I'm working with, so one of the startups that I'm working with on biomedical area called Gendo. We have been running this as a University of Moratuwa final year project. It started as a University of Moratuwa final year project 7 years ago. Until now, we never had an office even, right? Even now we don't have office, right? Of course, we have some co-working spaces, we work sometimes, and we do a lot of work through various other organizations, but we don't have an office even right now. But I'm very glad to say that we just went through an accelerator program in Luxembourg very recently, and our company was valued at $5 million with the first funding. So this is without any office, right? So our company is now valued at $5 million. With the first, the funding round came from the organization. But so what I'm telling you, I know the amount of money spent on all these facilities as a loan, right? So there's the responsibility lies with all the staff, all the students here. I think we have to give it back. It's not about the facility, it's the real value of any university is the people, right? So obviously with the facilities, you can double whatever the output. I think now there can't be any excuse for you to say that you can't start a startup in this university, right? Of a value of 5 million or 10 million or 1 billion one day, right? So I think Jehan also pointed out exactly what it should be. It's not about that when you do, say, IT degree, that IT company has to absorb you, right? Because in a university, what you learn is the fundamental sciences, fundamentals, right? And you should be able to take over anything. For example, the same startup that I mentioned, it's University of Moratuwa startup. None of them knew anything about biomedical. None of them knew anything about medicine. But here they have come up with a patented product in US markets and now even Japanese markets. It's a product, it's about a medical product. So it's none of the students who developed it had anything related to medicine, but later on what we did was we went to Colombo University, got the prestigious people in the Colombo University like Professor Saroj Jayasinghe, got his advice, and we brought in doctors. So the innovation happened when we mix with a technology or the engineering side with the medical science. So I think the real innovation comes when you have a link with 2 or 3 diverse skill sets. So for example, doctors talk to an engineer talks to an agronomist talks to a management science graduate. So that mix is what is expected in a university. It's not about, he talks about faculties, he talks about departments. Those are very silo model, but actually what should happen in a university is that interdepartmental multi-skill set comes together and discuss ideas. That is the whole idea of university. University is to create value, right? Not to graduate students, right? That's like maybe the 10th responsibility of a university. The number 1 responsibility of a university is to create new knowledge. So to create new knowledge, it's essential that different fields of people comes together and discuss ideas. So I think that's what we expect from all the students. And I will tell you this age limit, say 18 to 22 or 23, that age limit is the best time you get in your life. Don't expect anything else. After 24, if you think that I get a better time, no, this is the best time. This is the time that you get the best energy, both physically and mentally, right? If you don't start something at this stage, you will never start anything after that. So make sure that if you have any ideas of creating something big, creating something new, at the university time, it should start. Not that you can finish and make a $1 billion company in the university, it's very difficult. But if you have an idea, the start should happen at the university time. So I would expect, with all the facilities that we have, every student at University of Kelaniya Faculty of Computing and Technology will think about that, start their own ideas, new innovations, enterprises, entrepreneurship and startups. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your wonderful suggestions. And I also had a chance to go to Korea recently, and the Korean startup system actually started when they had an Asian financial crisis in 1997, because many people are laid off and they are kind of forced to start up their own business. So crisis can actually turn into the great opportunities, and I hope like a Kelaniya University student can also witness Mr. Heminda's like a kind of a model case to follow suit. And then I would like to turn over to Mr. maybe Pramoad Perera, because we have like 3 industry representatives, and I also wanted to hear from you about your advice to the FCT students.
Thank you, Ryotaro, and thank you, Kelaniya University, as well as ADB, for making today a possibility. And also thank every single one of the students who are seated here, who made an effort to be here today, right? So you asked me the question, Ryotaro, what is the expectation of the industry, right? For you to be resilient, for you to say yes to an opportunity, to go to where an opportunity is, may it be a job that leads to a career, or may it be an idea, like Heminda said, that might be $1 billion business one day. So that's the expectation, to give a very short answer. And also to everybody who is also probably connecting via Facebook or any other live streaming, thank you for those 3 girls who came forward today to share their thoughts, expectations, experiences and feedback. Malki, Timeshi and Chamishka. Probably those 3 were the only ones who were available today to come. Others may not have had the chance to come from their work or whatever the busy schedules. So we appreciate that initiative for the university in a very critical and very big occasion, such as opening of this premises today, to also have thought through of giving them that opportunity to share, to look at employment and grabbing that opportunity from a gender perspective as well. So thank you, Professor, and everybody who got involved and who actually came up with that idea, to whoever it is. So thank you. To move on in terms of the industry expectation today, I think Jehan spoke about the landscape today in terms of the investors and corporate companies, and also many startups have come into the business, especially post-COVID. So what COVID has done to us is, again, very, very old news, but just to reiterate on the fact, now the competition is global, right? 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when I first started hiring in tech, what I witnessed is men coming into universities to hire men for jobs that are ideally meant for men. Versus today, we have some leading software engineering companies in Sri Lanka, where the predominantly perceived as man's job, head of software engineering and architecture, is now run by a woman. So I would also like to, at the outset, to give that positive outlook of all the good work that's been done by institutions, but universities, academia, corporate companies, and also non-for-profit organizations. Those who have contributed to that environment today. Is that enough? Of course not. There's a lot more we can do. We still have roughly about 30% female representation, not enough. We would like to get to 50 or 60. So with that context, let's draw the inspiration from those who are holding those positions in the industry. So let's talk more about it as we progress in the discussion. But I think that's sufficient from my perspective of what the industry expectations are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pramoad. I think we have heard SLAASCOM chairmen, then technology startup and HR managers, how they see their expectation to the FCT students. And I'm now turning over to Vice-Chancellor, University of Kelaniya, about your advice, maybe how to digest those diverse expectations, for the students to consume. And I hope you can give some great advice for the students.
Thank you, Rio. Again, thank you to the ADB for supporting this. But as I think Heminda it was who mentioned that the university, any university, is not just about the buildings, not just about the infrastructure, it's about the people, the staff and the students. And students come and they go, but nonetheless, they are the ones who carry the reputation of the university. And so what are my aspirations, what would I want from students? That you, wherever you go, whether you're doing it as students or whether you're going there as graduates of the University of Kelaniya, that you bear in mind that you're not just you, but you're part of the University of Kelaniya, and that you have a responsibility for the reputation of the university. And that what you do, the way in which you behave, the way in which you interact with other people, carries a message of what the university is like and what we expect of our graduates, of our students in contributing towards national development. Because one thing that we cannot forget is that as a state university, we are funded by the treasury of this country. Even the ADB loan will be paid back someday by the treasury of this country. So it's the people of this country who are funding your education, and so who provide the funds to keep the university running. And so the university has to pay back in terms of contributing towards national development. And how do we do that? We do that through our students, through our graduates. So whatever you do, wherever you go, remember that you are taking the image of the University of Kelaniya with you. I know that in Sri Lanka, a lot of the time, especially over the last few years, the public image that is portrayed in the press is negative. And that is because of endless student protests that take place on the Kandy Road, which the press feeds on. But the reality of what happens in this university, we have 15,000 students, we have 7 faculties, and there is an amazing amount of work, an amazing body of students with huge talents in academic activities as well as you just saw this morning, non-academic activities. That doesn't go out there because of the negative press. Right? What I would like to see all our graduates doing is to change that image, to change that negative image into a positive image, because that will help our university to grow. It will help us to attract the funding that we need in order to survive, to provide education for children like you in generations to come. That's what I want from our graduates.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vice Chancellors, for your valuable advice. Maybe I should have one more panelist from the entertainment industry, or singers or dancers today. But nonetheless, I think those valuable advice from the 4 panelists was, I hope, informative for all the FCT students. Vice Chancellor mentioned about, ADB supporting, but this is a concessional loan. So at the end of the day, country have to make a repayment, and we are I'm kind of an economist, and I did actually the economic analysis of this project. And how I calculate the benefit is, so you as a students after graduation, you go into the labor market, you get the salary, and some of the salaries are returned back to the treasury as a tax. So it's really important for ADB. You really go into the private sector, contributing the labor market, and so I really wanted to see you work in the private sector in the future. But getting job is not that easy, and so we wanted to hear from the SLAASCOM chairperson. What are the emerging job opportunities in ICT industries? And how can students better prepare for them at the university? And what kind of efforts are being made to promote women's participation in ICT industry, which are currently underrepresented in ICT workforce?
Thanks for that question. So in terms of the skills that the industry requires, I would like to, so there's a technical skill element, and I'll come to that, but generally the perception is that Sri Lankan graduates have very good technical skills. The area that they would like to see an improvement in is in the soft skills aspect. And that partly comes from confidence, the ability to back yourself, to communicate with confidence, to present with confidence, and to really speak up and to market yourself. Whether you do a startup or whether you are in a corporate, one of the things that I've seen, we as Sri Lankans are very modest, sometimes too modest. We don't, and let me tell you, if you don't market yourself, if you don't market yourself, no one will do that for you. Someone else will take the credit for your work. And so I would encourage you to be confident to speak up, ask questions. So I've heard from several leading people now, they have centers in Philippines, in India, in Sri Lanka, and they say our colleagues in the Philippines or India, if there is a forum like this, they would ask questions, they would give answers, they would stand up. Hardly anything from Sri Lanka. And that's important, right? They want people who are not only good technically, but people who can also communicate. Now we have a project with an Australian company, and one of the things that they've been indicating to us a little bit, of course they know I do a BPO, so know their double entries, but they're not telling us what the problems are. They want to hear from us, what can we do better? What are the suggestions, recommendations, and that aspect is not really coming through. So I would really recommend investing in Toastmasters. I'm sure you already have a club. For me, my personal journey, that was the single most pivotal decision, and I would think the most important skill that you need as a corporate. Let's say you do IT startup. You need to be able to present your ideas, sell your ideas, and I've heard from several people who came internationally, sometimes the ideas are good, but it's not being sold effectively. The next thing is in terms of mindset, right? Now, again, I've heard from some of the people in the industry that when they are working with, say, Malaysian resources or India, particularly, that killer instinct, the idea, particularly at a young age, when you have the energy, as Heminda said, you need to really invest in building your career, in making a name for yourself. Nothing comes easy when you are doing a startup. Sometimes you might have to do 18-hour days. Right? You need to put in a lot of effort. It doesn't come easy. And what they're saying is sometimes they're not seeing that from the Sri Lankan talent. There are a lot of requests for hybrid work and reluctance to come into work, and the number of hours that they're getting from other regions, Malaysia, India, sometimes more. The productivity is more. So that is something that we need to address in terms of mindset. Right? We need to be known as people who really put in a lot of effort, particularly in the early stage of your career. Then when it comes to conceptualizing skills, again, I've heard it saying that we have very good people who can write very good code, but in terms of conceptualizing a solution, looking at a problem and coming up with a solution, not so great. Right? So give some attention towards that. We had some visitors from IIT Madras, and they come up with a patent a day. Right? 400 patents are registered every year. And some of the success factors is they look at problems, they look at real world problems, and they try to find solutions for that. Now that type of thinking, I think if we can adopt, and they also have very good tools to see what sort of patents have already been registered in a specific area. So those are some of the soft skill aspects I would like to touch on. In terms of the more technical areas and where the industry is heading, SLAASCOM has done a skill survey, surveying several of our member companies. That report should be out in a couple of weeks. The draft is with me, but I maybe won't go into it in the interest of time. But we will definitely present it to all the universities, including the University of Kelaniya, and that will give you a very good idea of 2030, where people are looking at what are the hot skills in demand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are very much looking forward to those publications so that the university can align industry demands for teaching the future students. I then turn over to Mr. Heminda. I think a startup is another way to contribute to the societies rather than working for the big companies. But I think this is not easy things. So why did you develop your career as technology startup? And you also COO of the SLINTEC, which is very unique. And what makes you challenge this difficult but rewarding career path? And would it be difficult for women to start up their own business in Sri Lanka? So those are some of the questions we wanted to hear from you.
Quite a few questions, right? So I try to answer one by one. Let me give a bit into my current role as the Executive Director at Trade Sri Lanka also. So yes, SLINTEC work, I actually got involved due to one thing that I saw. Maybe something that you could research as well. Sri Lanka, I don't know whether you have heard the name called, this particular indicator called the Hightech Exports, right? So high-tech means, even if you do IT, it's not high-tech. Remember that, right? IT is just in the middle, right? Maybe tea and some of the things that we export may be on the lower, complex products. Then IT may be in the middle. But then you get the high complex products, maybe electronics to pharmaceuticals to biotech, nanotech, all that, right? That comes like the high-tech products. So I saw this particular indicator in Sri Lanka is about 1%. So high-tech exports as a percentage of total exports has been 1%. Way back in 1970s, by the way, right? Then I checked what was it. This is about 6-7 years ago. What is the rate as of now? I'm talking about 2017 or 18. Any idea what it is? What it was, at least? Well, even now it's about less than 2%. So it's about 1.8%. So this is what we have to change. It's for 50 years of multiple governments, multiple people in the highest role. But we have not changed that much on high-tech exports. So this is all about university education, right? So I'm not saying that what we do in the tea industry is bad. I mean, we got $1.3 billion in the last year from tea industry. But remember, it was 1 million workforce who got 1.3 billion revenue. So if you divide that, one person got only $1,300 only. So if you divide that by 12, monthly, it's about 35,000, 40,000 rupees. Not enough, right? So, but I'll give you another part of it. If you take the example of Trade Sri Lanka, which I am part of now, we have only 2,500 workforce. Only 2,500, right? We are bringing $110 million to Sri Lanka by this 2,500 workforce. So if you divide that, you get $44,000 per person. So that's the difference between, again, 90% of the companies who are at face are export-oriented companies, all high-tech products. So that's the difference that we see. So that is where Sri Lanka should go to, and that's the kind of achievement that we should have. This $44,000 is equivalent to maybe European, US, or maybe not as good as maybe Japan, by the way, or a much developed country, but that is where we want to be. So this is the difference that the university, undergraduates, universities should focus on. So creating that high value product. So that's the reason behind me moving into SLINTEC for a few years, and then also Trace, and also me moving into startup space. So since there's a specific focus on gender on this panel discussion, I want to touch upon that as well. So I told you about my biomedical startup, which is again, a university of Morocco startup that was finally a project that came in. There's another startup that I'm working on right now on a biotech product. So this is actually led by a female scientist. I partnered with her very recently, about 1.5 years ago. So today we have an office at another similar facility at SLINTEC now. SLINTEC has this modular labs facilities where we can rent. So we bought a private lab at SLINTEC. So we are working on a very interesting product. Product that is very closer to Sri Lanka. I don't know whether you heard about Cinnamomum verum or Selenicum. So what we realized was there were 5 this kurudu, by the way, yes, cinnamon, the true cinnamon. So true cinnamon bark has about 25 to 30 different compounds. We only talk about cinnamaldehyde usually, but 2 of the so a lot of research has been done in Sri Lanka, outside, but then we found these 5 papers, none of them from Sri Lanka, by the way, unfortunately, but talking about us insulin mimicry in cinnamon. So we wanted to research a lot on that. We started doing the research, we developed our own extraction method, a different extraction method. Then we turned that into a startup. Now we are working on that for the last 6 to 7 months, or more than that, by the way. So idea is to come up with a better extraction method and of course come up with a pharmaceutical product. So that's the entire project is now led by a scientist, female scientist. So this is what you can do. I mean, she came from Perera University, then Bombay University, now focusing on food technology. But then we partnered with an American partner as well on, because we don't know anything about pharmaceuticals. So that's a huge area which we don't know. We partnered with an American partner, and we are trying to map it to clinical studies, to all that. So this is entirely done by a female scientist. So again, coming from an entirely different background. She just did food science only, but now she's coming into pharmaceuticals. So I just want to highlight, this is again, there's no boundaries that you can think of if you really focus on something. But remember, innovations comes when different types of people comes and talk together. So that is what needs to be facilitated at the universities. Even if the university doesn't facilitate, right? It's a responsibility of the students. Don't just talk with your department students. Go and talk to a lot of people in the other side. I mean, University of Kelaniya is a huge university, a lot of faculties, 10 or 15, I don't know the exact number. So go and meet all the people. Talk about ideas. So universities are for that. So that is where it should start. If you don't start anything at universities, don't think that you can do it in the industry. That is, a lot of people think when I get something, when I get a monthly salary, I can do a lot of things, right? That's the mistake that a lot of people do, right? If you want to do something new, if you want to do something really change the world, it has to start from the university. They check everything that has happened globally, right? Everything that changed the world must have started in the university. That's the way. Even, I know, you talked about Nobel Prizes, right? Some of the people, very old people, go and get the Nobel Prize, but if you really look at it, why he or she got the Nobel Prize? Because the works he or she has done in a university. That's the usual case. So make sure that if you want to really change the world, it's the university. So I think that's what we expect from all the Sri Lankan undergraduates. So I hope Faculty of Computing, with the new facilities that we have, we can create a lot more similar kind of high, super active undergraduates from this university. Thank you.
Thank you very much for again another great advice. And maybe I will turn over to Vice-Chancellor for Mr. Heminda to address Mr. Heminda's suggestion, because he talks about the interdisciplinary collaborations. And if I understand correctly, FCT is planning to open the biosystem technology from next year, next academic years, and I think this is going to be a great addition to have both biosystems and the computing technology all together within one faculty. But at the same time, this is a little bit away from the main campus from the Kelaniya universities. But how do you possibly foster the interdisciplinary collaboration for the Kelaniya universities? And more broadly, how can you nurture technology entrepreneurship and the leaders, both women and men, from University of Kelaniya.
Yeah, so yes, the University of Kelaniya, we have 7 faculties. One is graduate studies, which brings all of the postgraduate programs together. But like I said earlier this morning, our origins are from humanities, and then social sciences and natural sciences came on board pretty soon. Then we have a medical faculty, which also combines the allied health sciences, working particularly in the area of disability. And then we have a faculty of commerce and management studies, and then we have this faculty. The medical faculty is in Ragama, and this faculty of computing and technology is a little bit, maybe 10 minutes away from our main campus. So we are in geographically sort of separate locations, but if you compare with the University of Ruhuna, for example, or even Sri Jayaweera or Kanampu, we are really not that far apart. And in today's context, with all of the technology that is available, Zoom and Teams and WhatsApp and all of that, I don't think physical distance really makes that much of a difference. It's the desire to reach out and to learn more about things which are outside of your own little immediate circle of knowledge. To be curious about how other people do things, how they perceive the world, and what you can learn from them. And so I think even now there are projects that are going on which reach out to the medical faculty. I think Pradeep has, Lalita. Yes, Lalita has a project that is being done jointly with the medical faculty. And there are many more things I'm sure that we can do, especially with the humanities faculty, languages, translation. Sinhala, for example, in the business of translation, it's lousy, right? And so there are many areas for, we have a very good fine arts department with visual art and design and very talented people there. The science faculty has the physics department, and there are electronic devices innovation center. They have already set up a startup. So, we have people with the knowledge across a diverse range of different academic disciplines that can support students and alumni and young graduates as well. It's a matter of reaching out to them, and I hope that the academic staff of the Faculty of Computing and Technology will find ways and means of encouraging both the academic staff and the students to reach out across the different faculties of our university. Entrepreneurship, again, like I said, our Electronic Devices and Innovation Center in the Science Faculty has shown the way for how the university can operate, and Dr. Pradeep Samarasekara, who heads the Industry Innovation Interaction Cell, also heads our University Business, it's now the Technology Transfer Office for the entire university. And they've been developing their capacity over the last few months, over the last maybe 2-3 years, in terms of supporting people in getting things going, the technical things about the legal arrangements and the agreements and, navigating that field. So there's a lot that the university can do to support the students, the graduates who want to get into entrepreneurship. With regard to the encouraging and empowering gender diversity and encouraging female students, I think that is something that needs something of a society-wide change because of the perceptions and the gender stereotyping that is not just unique to Sri Lanka. I was part of the global forum a few months ago in the UK, which talked about STEM education and gender disparities and what can we do about that. And I was so sort of pleased to realize that the problems that we face, that we talk about in Sri Lanka, are equally experienced in countries like the UK, Egypt, what were the other countries? I think the Philippines and Peru. So they were from all parts of the world, but we had a lot of things that are in common. So there is stereotyping, and sometimes without even realizing it, you fall into the box that other people make for you. And so we need to be able to say, okay, that box is not for me. Right? I'm going to go beyond of that, and to have the confidence to say that you can do it, not just as a student, but as a professional, somebody who has a successful career, as well as has a successful family life. Because I think for men and women, there is that marked difference, that for women, many women, to have to feel fulfilled and happy in their lives, family is important. It has certainly been important for me. But achieving that balance is difficult. You need to have confidence, you need to have the strength to say, this is what I want from my life, and then find people around you who will support you in doing that. I can say that in my career, I've had times where I felt I'm being a lousy mother, I'm not doing my job properly, what am I doing with my life, right? But then you put your head down and say, no, I will make this work, because that's who I am. And if I don't do this, so I can go on and on about it. But, that's what I want, confidence from our girls that they can make it.
Thank you very much for our Vice-Chancellor. I think you are really making way, and the two females like Marik and Mesh, they are also making their own unique pathways so that other female students can also follow suit. So I think it's social stereotypes and which we cannot change overnight, but I think each and every individual has a role to play to change the society. But at the same time, I think the program can have a sort of mechanism to facilitate like a female participation or interdisciplinary collaboration. So I wanted to turn Mr. Pramoad, what are the ways in which the curriculum, industry collaborations and internship programs related to technology studies be strengthened to be more effective in helping female students succeed in the technology job market?
A long question. I'll try to break it down and answer. So the first, I can start with curriculum, and probably Pradeep can work with the faculty and academia in doing this. There's a fair amount of formal awareness and education that's required to have that gender equity and collaboration at the workspace. Because those who are seated here today are the ones who will be either starting up their own startups and have been their own employer, or joining an organization who would then later on become the heads of the department. So from that context, Professor spoke about stereotypes, for instance. How many of us seated here are able to briefly define what the stereotyping is, and how stereotype leads to biases, which then leads to discrimination? How many of those can connect the dots? So that's the sort of formal awareness and education that's important for the university at the first, second, third years to educate the student with. So by the time you approach the internships, by the time, again, drawing to one of the comments that came from one of those ladies who shared their feedback, that as a girl, when I went through the interview process, I was asked more questions, or I was tested more, of something of that nature. So how do we create awareness, number one? So the student or the graduate then becomes aware of what is unconscious bias, what is inclusive behavior, what is diversity, and how does it differ from inclusion or equity for that matter. So all of that is part of the curricular development and how we educate. So that's first part. Second, we spoke about industry collaboration. So industry collaborations, as the word suggests, would be the first step, probably through the internship, where the student would get the first-hand experience of the real works of being an employee, right? What are the challenges? How do you, from the point you update your LinkedIn, even before, from the time you prioritize LinkedIn instead of TikTok or Instagram for that matter, because that's where your employer is sharing information. LinkedIn is where your employer is having discussions not just about employment and also about business. Very recently, one of the leading companies in Sri Lanka, software companies, the opportunities, career opportunities that you have. So all of that, prioritizing and recognizing what's important as an individual, then would develop a certain amount of understanding, idea, perceptions, and also information about the industry, and most importantly about certain employers. Which employer out there are truly practicing gender equity or equal opportunity? Not just the cupcakes around International Women's Day, but also who gets promoted in that company? How many of the women are becoming department heads, directors, senior directors, CEOs? So that's the level of information that is accessible and available to all of you, right? So how do we leverage on it? How do you capitalize on that knowledge that is freely available out there for you in you forming an idea about, now I'm in computing, technology, university faculty today, and this I think is going to be my vertical, whether it's project management, whether it's software engineering, whether it's program, whether it's quality assurance, whatever. So that's how you collaborate with the industry even before you step into the industry or your internship. So that's second part. Third part, internship programs. It's important. Again, I appreciate the fact that some of the alumni came and spoke today, which is very, very important because they are going to be the ambassadors of the industry at the academic spaces. So it's important that you, the universities, invite them over for first-hand experience sharing, knowledge sharing, in addition to every single one of you doing your own individual research. Like I said, it could be LinkedIn, and I know some of the companies are even on TikTok now, and they've been on Instagram and Facebook anyway. So that kind of individual research so that you understand how the tech space operates. What do they do in terms of employee engagement? What are the new technologies they're using? How is AI now coming into some of the product companies who are doing in various different domains? So that sort of development, that sort of industry landscape changes are always out there. So internship would be that first step for you to get in, but by the time you get even for the interview or even putting your CV down, or even start doing your CV, having that context, background, knowledge would be very, very important so that you know what other companies you would like to work for. I mean, let's be honest, not every single company can genuinely say that they are truly an equal opportunity employer or they are practicing diversity and inclusion in a widely practiced manner. There are still biases that we are challenged with. There are still senior directors, leaders, sometimes CEOs, who would like to hire a man because it's easy, right? Because it's available, less challenging, and all of that. So that's still the environment that we are battling with, and not just Sri Lanka, not just APAC, but across the world. So in that context, how aware you are as a woman, as a female student, not just to make decisions for yourself, and also to educate your opinion leaders at home, which could be your mother, which could be your aunt who would say, oh, IT, you have to work late. Are you sure you want to do that? You have a marriage coming up soon. So that sort of conversations are the conversations that are probably you are domestically challenged with, and more educated, more aware you are more likely to overcome those conversations without them leading to domestic violence. So with that context, those are some of the things I wanted to share. And one more thing, most importantly, we are speaking about gender equity and all of that. One more thing to touch is about well-being. It's not easy times to be, like Heminda mentioned. These are tough times to be, and also these are times with a lot of opportunities. So it's very important that you walk in to employment, to the corporate world, to an interview, or to any sort of hackathon, conversation, whatever, with your full self. And if you are mentally, physically not ready for that, you are not likely to do your best or be your best in that occasion. Social anxiety is real. High-performing depression is real. These could be taboo topics to talk out there still. But there are so many organizations, so much material available for you to get support. If you feel you're not fully ready, it's perfectly fine, right? There are CEOs who wake up in the morning not feeling fully themselves. There are a lot of business leaders, a lot of us go through certain days saying, it's going to be a tough one. But there's a certain amount of resilience, certain amount of discipline that is important, because the day that you don't have that motivation anymore, that discipline is what will push and keep you going. So look after yourselves. That's another message in terms of your mental well-being, in terms of your perseverance, resilience, and because all of that matter when you one day walk into that, whether it's an internship interview, whether it's a full-time job interview. So we are looking at all of that from a holistic perspective. So especially when women are challenged to step into the corporate careers or climbing up because of the glass ceiling and many things that we are aware of, all of that matter. And everything that I said is focusing on women because that's the topic focus today, but applicable to all genders. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those lots of tips for the women to thrive. I think I'm kind of incompetent to manage the times, and it's been quite some time, for these sessions. But do we still have a few more minutes to get some questions from the students? Okay, so 5 minutes. Okay. So maybe SLAASCOM chairman mentioned Sri Lankan students are very silent, and I think this is the opportunity for the student to change the mindset of the university industry, industry leaders in Sri Lanka. So is any students wanted to ask questions to this distinguished panelist? Can you raise your hands? No one? Okay, so gentleman over there.
Hi. Just one comment. When I talk about we don't see that much of tech products coming into the market. So I'm partly involved with innovation and product designs in one of my other role. So when you look at Sri Lanka, when you think about coming up a product, maybe prototyping, the facilities that we have over here, I mean, for a simplest thing, getting a 3D product done for our, maybe for exhibition, showcasing, so it's very challenging. So as of maybe from SLAASCOM or maybe some other institutes, can we facilitate that like the, we see a lot of incubators coming over here, and the support for tech startups. But do we really see that emphasizing on the infrastructure providing for university students? Maybe universities have that much of assets lying in the labs which is not fully utilized. Can we get it like accessible for people maybe within the university, maybe outside the university? So can we have a discussion on that? Wouldn't that help us to get that from the off the ground?
So shall I answer? Yeah. So I think, I don't know, are you from university?
I'm a product of University of Kelaniya. At the moment, I'm following my GPA.
You're a graduate now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at in Sri Lanka, I'll tell you the problem. It's not about that we don't have equipment. We have a lot of equipment under various organizations, but we don't have a method for the access. So I know universities have a lot of equipment, a lot of other institutes have a lot of equipments, but that access is the issue. And I know there's one effort that is done by National Science Foundation that there's an equipment base. It's like a website. But I'm not still happy with what they have done so far, but then there's some effort is going on. So, but if you specifically ask about like a 3D printing kind of thing, right? I don't know whether that's a requirement. We can look at, there are various organizations who have 3D printing, but remember, I've been, one of my mentors all this time was Dr. Bandula Vijay from Houston. So he's my mentor for a lot of my activities. When I asked, so when I went to Houston a couple of years back, he was telling me that he has done 31 US patents, right? And most of them sold to big companies like Boston Scientific, to all these companies. And so I thought he must be having a fantastic lab at his place. So I was saying him, right? So then he was also agreeing, yes, I have a fantastic lab at my place. You come over one day and I will show you. So there was a time, it took like 2 years for me to get there, and he invited me to Houston. I went there, and unfortunately on that day, he didn't have the front key of his house. He had the back door key. So he took me through his back door. So basically it was through the kitchen. So I went past through his kitchen. So this is a guy who has done 31 patents. Remember, one of the first patents was on the nested loop. This is the inside your heart. You do a, it's a stent. One of the first FDA approval for a level 4 invention, right? Which is actually, by its level 4 means, if it goes wrong, it's a heart surgery, right? That's the impact. I mean, you can't go wrong in that, right? So that's why FDA approval has a level 4. I think he has the 00001 approval. So one of the first FDA approvals on level 4, right? This is the guy. So I went through the kitchen, then I asked, where's your lab? Is it upstairs or downstairs? He said, now you're in the lab. You're in my lab. My kitchen is my lab. All the 31 world-changing inventions started in his kitchen. So remember, it's not about the facilities, right? He started everything in his kitchen. Obviously, at different levels, then he must have used a lot of other facilities. But he started everything at his kitchen. What he said was, he's a professor in medicine, but he's a chemical engineer, right? But he works on both sides, right? And he said all his products he started with hot water and cold water, which you can get from your kitchen. So, but if there's a specific requirement, you said on 3D printing, we can help. But remember, there's nothing called free. Especially when you think about startups, don't ask everything free, right? If you want to get something done, like a 3D printing, there are methods you can do. You pay a small amount, you get it done. There are enough facilities. I can direct you. But don't expect anything free. There's nothing called free in this world. Right? Especially if you want to do startups, you have to understand there's nothing called free, but then we can give it at a very small rate. For example, if you want to start a food tech product, Trace has a food tech incubator in Viamber, which you can use that. Again, it's not free, but we give it at the lowest rate you can get it. For example, there are businesses who are using it at the lowest rate, right? But you have to pay something. So that's the model. So if you have any requirement on, your example was 3D printing, there are enough 3D printing facilities in Sri Lanka. You can get it.
I could just add to that as well, Atlas Labs has some very good 3D printing capability. And also what SLAASCOM is doing, we have the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Forum that aims to encourage startups. We have mentoring, and we have 2 years free membership that we give to startups. There's a lot of support, and there's a separate forum called Women Technopreneurs that is working to encourage women in tech. We are now trying to collaborate and sign an MOU with IIT Madras so that we can take some of our startups there, and their support is tremendous as well. So these are some of the initiatives that we are doing. The other thing is that I've seen in startups is the belief, absolute confidence in belief. I was recently talking to Feroz Khada, who is on the board of SLAASCOM, and he's London Stock Exchange, ex-Millennium IT. So I asked, how did a small company here get into New York, Boston, and London? Have some of the biggest stock exchanges in the world use Sri Lankan software. So it's a long, hard route they have gone through. He was saying there were days when they had to bring their own sugar and coffee to the office. They went through years without increments. But Tony never gave up on the belief, right, in his product. Dr. Harshani, who is a fantastic women entrepreneur and founder of Incubator and Travel Gadget today, which is the #1 digital travel agency in the country. They started off during COVID. Right, travel obviously came to zero. They had to mortgage their house. If you can listen to her story on a podcast, it's a very inspiring one. They had to work 18 hours a day. They took other jobs just to keep the lights on, but they didn't give up on their dream. Right, Travel Gadget, Dr. Harshani Perera. So that's what I've seen about these successful innovators, and they really have strong belief in what they do, and they are willing to push through the hard times. Just a word on the gender aspect. So I think there is no better time to be a woman at this moment, because the whole world is supporting gender diversity. Today, a lot of the companies have targets, right? And some of my male colleagues have said they've actually been turned down from roles because that role has been reserved for women. So I think we need to, as women, also take this very positively, right? Don't assume that there is bias. Go for it in a positive mindset and go full on. There is a lot of opportunities today, because now I know in my company, which is a BPO, we have 62% female participation in the workforce. 62%. John Keels has a target of 40%. There are serious initiatives. We have to report to the board on a quarterly basis on how are we doing in terms of female participation. Overall, women in leadership, what are the initiatives that are taken, how you are handling discrimination, what trainings have been done. So all our companies have, we can't be on a panel now if there is no gender diversity. All the senior executives. Right? So all the companies today have targets. They're working on it in a very serious manner. So this is the time for women to really embrace the opportunity. Don't assume that you will be treated any different, because of my experience, actually it's the positive. They're looking to hire women in key roles.
Thank you very much. ADB also has a corporate target for women's leadership roles, and whenever we organize this session, we have to have at least one female, in today's case, vice-chancellors. So I think society is still slowly but surely changing, as Jason mentioned in the beginning. So I hope female students can seize these opportunities, and at the same time, this facility is more than kitchen, certainly. And I think a university has to maintain this variable asset. So if I understand correctly, university is also thinking about renting out this auditorium space to the industries or private industries or other university faculties. Maybe if you need to use 3D printers, maybe you can talk to Dr. Chamlis or someone in the FCT faculty asking them to purchase, and then I'm sure they will come up with some mechanism to share those, all those computer facilities or 3D printers, etc., to graduates or industries and the other university students and faculty members. So looking forward for further, development of the FCT University of Kelaniya, and unfortunately time is coming, so we have to close these sessions. But maybe please feel free to reach out to some of the distinguished panelists here today after this session. With this, I wanted to formally close this technical sessions, and thank you once again for participating in this grand opening ceremonies, and I hope Kelaniya University students and faculty members can make the best use of these facilities moving forward. Thank you very much.